Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dewan. Today's date is Friday, August 17th, 2012. Strap yourselves in. It's about to get crazy.
Tonight, George Soros has reportedly unloaded all investments in major stocks and invest over $130 million in gold as the financial system threatens to implode. Then, the Social Security Administration attempts to explain why they plan on buying 174,000 hollow point bullets. Plus, newly released documents clearly show that the Homeland Security Department continued to pursue a mobile surveillance program despite claiming it has dropped the program altogether. And Mike Adams joins us to explain why he believes a major false flag terror attack might be right around the corner. All that and more coming up next. The INFOWARS Nightly News.
So we got a great show lined up for you this Friday. But first, I want to ask you a question. What if there was a government agency out there that wanted to go around and collect all kinds of infrastructure information and proprietary information about different types of infrastructures privately owned around the country? Would you give it to them? Would you even trust them? Well, that takes us to our first story today. Homeland Security announces the Protected Critical Infrastructure Information Program, or PICI. What do they want to do? They want you to submit information, all kinds of proprietary information. They're looking for information that enhances infrastructure between owners, operators, and the government. So what is the PCII program? It is an information protection program that enhances voluntary information sharing between infrastructure owners and operators and the government. PCII protection means that Homeland Security partners can be confident with sharing their information with the government and they will not expose sensitive or proprietary data. DHS and other federal, state, tribal, and other local analysts use PCCI to analyze and secure critical infrastructure and protected systems, identify vulnerabilities and develop risk assessments, and enhance recovery preparedness measures. And also they'd have plans to maybe, I don't know, do a false flag or something. You know, they'd have all that private information. How does PCII protect my information? If the information submitted satisfies the requirements of the Critical Infrastructure Information Act of 2002, it is protected from the Freedom of Information Act, state, tribal, and local disclosure laws, and use of regulatory actions and use in civil litigation. PCII can only be assessed in accordance with strict safeguarding and handling requirements, and only trained, certified federal, state, and local government employees or contractors may have access to PCII. So basically what they do, they want all your information, and then they will choose whether or not it satisfies certain requirements, which would then leave you basically safeguarded from almost any type of disclosure out there. Pretty scary on many levels. But don't take it from me. Let's hear what the Department of Homeland Security has to say in this really horribly produced video.
Accurate critical infrastructure information. It is an essential resource for national preparedness. And yet, it's not always available to those who need it to keep America safe.
The critical infrastructure information is crucial for us to have. If you don't have meaningful data that is customer focused, that you can actually use in your protection planning, you really only have half the picture.
State and local governments are most likely to be the first responders in the event of an incident. And so they've got to be able to understand those businesses and those facilities and know what their security vulnerabilities are.
Because a large majority of our nation's critical infrastructure is privately owned, the data needed for national preparedness is sometimes sensitive or proprietary to that private company. Information shared with the federal, state, and local governments could become public record, so businesses and organizations are often hesitant to provide their data.
The concerns that private businesses have about giving information to the government is that it might be disclosed by the government to someone else.
A program within the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Infrastructure Protection bridges this gap. Known as the PCII program, DHS created the Protected Critical Infrastructure Information Program as a result of the Critical Infrastructure Information Act of 2002. PCII offers protections to enhance the flow of information between the private sector and the government.
We are creating a partnership whereby the private sector knows if they give us this information that we are partners in creating a plan for response.
PCII provides a bridge in terms of information sharing between the public and the private sector, in that it provides the private sector the protections that they would expect.
Essentially, critical infrastructure information that is voluntarily submitted and validated by DHS as PCII cannot be obtained by making a request under the Freedom of Information Act or other similar state and local disclosure laws. Additionally, the information is protected against use in civil litigation or in regulatory actions.
Now, companies and associations can share information that's sensitive, proprietary, and timely with the government, so they can engage the government partner in helping to build protective measures.
Procedural safeguards ensure that all users of PCII have Homeland Security responsibilities, a need to know that information, and have completed training on handling PCII.
Both sides understand that we're focusing only on security, and we're focusing on the information that we need for that security, either the planning on the front or the response on the other end.
PCII protections assist public-private partnerships through assurances. Assurances that the right information is seen by the right eyes and is used for the right reasons.
There you go. They want your critical information, and if they deem it fits within their parameters, they'll protect you from all kinds of laws. So I could see this being abused several different ways. What if you're a nuclear power plant and you have a constant leak going, and you provide this information to DHS, and they determine that that specific leak is part of, well, critical information. So they put that aside, and you'll never know if that nuclear power plant leaks. You can't get that disclosed in any way, shape, or form. So I see this as two things: being a protection for these insiders who work with the government, and also, say you're a small business who doesn't quite agree with what the government says, and you give them your information, being a good citizen. And they look at it, and then they use that information, they deem it's not critical, and then they use it to come after you via, a number of many different laws that they come up with. So this thing is scary on its face. It was sent to us by a listener. I'm not sure when this program started, but I haven't heard anything about it. So I just wanted to put that out there and make that our top story tonight. So very interesting what they want to do. It kind of goes into a lot of different things of bridging private and public sectors, and it's pretty scary. And it also brings me to this. Why would you not want to give your information to DHS? Well, because they lie. And in fact, this leads us to our next story. New documents. Big Sis lied about canceling mobile body scanner program. This is from Steve Watson. And Homeland Security claimed it dropped the plans at an early stage. EPIC, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, yesterday released the documents obtained under the Freedom of Information Act, showing that DHS was still operating the program in March of 2011, just 2 days prior to claiming it had dropped the project's very early, an early phase after testing showed flaws. EPIC filed a lawsuit against DHS for attempting to keep the program secret. And what was this program? This program was basically going around taking these mobile body scanners. They were using the terahertz, the millimeter wave, intelligent video, all going to be deployed in all these different areas to basically spy on the American public. And they said early on that, oh, no, we stopped this in its early stages, way back when, but then EPIC got the documents showing that it did not. EPIC suit asked the federal court to disclose nearly 1,000 pages of additional records detailing the controversial program. And they did that, but they redacted 158 pages and withheld 983 pages of documents. So that's the kind of disclosure you get from them. So it makes you wonder, they want businesses to give up their information voluntarily, and then they're going to take care of your information. And don't worry, they won't let it get out in the hands of anybody, or any government insiders won't be able to use that information against you. Trust us, trust us. So now I want to play a game. I want you to pick out the criminal here. It's called Who's the Criminal? Or Find the Criminal. There it is. Is it Assange? Is it Corzine? Who's the criminal? Who do you pick? Do you pick the guy who whistleblowed about war crime secrets? Or do you pick the guy who sold billions of dollars out of his customers' segregated accounts? Well, my pick's on John Corzine. Unfortunately, as reported by Zero Hedge, It's not. It's Assange. So the United States won't prosecute Corzine for raiding segregated customers' accounts, but it will happily convene a grand jury in preparation for prosecuting Julian Assange for exposing the truth about war crimes. And this is from the New York Times. I'm going to that New York Times quote now. A criminal investigation into the collapse of the brokerage firm MF Global and its disappearance of about $1 billion in customer money is now headed into its final stage without charges expected against any top executives. After 10 months of stitching together evidence on the firm's demise, criminal investigators are concluding that chaos and porous risk controls at the firm rather than fraud allowed the money to disappear, according to the people involved in the case. And then let's go back to that other graphic real quick. Corzine is considering opening a new hedge fund, though the notion that anyone, even a slack-jawed Muppet, happy to buy whatever Goldman prop traders want to sell would cede Corzine money so he can trade or steal it away seems rather absurd, rather like putting a child molester in charge of the daycare. And I think Zero Hedge hit it right on the head with that remark. How could you trust this guy after this when he claims he knew nothing about it, when he did know, and then we find out the money went to J.P. Morgan? There you go. But he's not a criminal, and this is going to flashback. Actually, we're going to go to this Yahoo News story that came out just a couple days ago from the Atlantic Wire. No one will be charged with a crime for the MF Global collapse. And, of course, the company's bankruptcy is a result of incompetence rather than theft. And